If you're watching this video right now, it's not by accident. You're here because you're stepping into a new level of confidence and responsibility. Imagine this. A state agency or a high-ranking official suddenly comes to you, insisting they urgently need your signature, claiming nothing can move forward without your approval. They say powerful figures are waiting on you because extremely sensitive documents, let's call them the Epstein files, a fictional set of classified records, are at risk of being revealed, containing hidden global operations involving major names and institutions. They warn that if this information gets out, it could shake entire countries. Now, they're pressuring you, saying they'll do anything to get your signature. But here's the message. This scenario reflects the power you already carry. You are stronger, smarter, and more capable than you realize. And when life demands your confidence, you must rise to the moment. Before we go deeper into this mindset shift, pause this video, hit the like button, subscribe to help us reach 5,000 subscribers, and drop the number 11 in the comments to show you're ready to take control of your life. They don't come to you out of courtesy. They come because every other door has slammed in their face. When power knocks last, it's because it has nowhere left to go, no one left to persuade, and nothing left to control. That knock is the sound of a system realizing it miscalculated the very person it once overlooked. And in that moment, their authority suddenly feels a lot smaller than their fear. You open the door, not as a follower, not as a bystander, but as the one person they can't predict. They expected resistance, but not clarity. They expected hesitation, but not the kind of calm that rattles men who are used to giving orders. Power expected you to be impressed by its presence, yet here you are, unimpressed, unmoved, and undeniably in control. This is the moment you realize something. When power comes to you with shaking hands, it's not opportunity, it's confirmation. Confirmation that you've become the card they can't play without. And that shift isn't luck, that shift is earned. They can imitate your voice, your mannerisms, your decisions, but they can't forge your authority. Your signature has become a trigger, a doorway, a decisive force they can't replicate, no matter how much pressure they apply. In a world built on documents and approvals, your name has turned into a blade, sharp enough to cut through their panic. Their desperation to obtain your signature is proof of how far they've fallen from control. They never imagined needing your consent. They never imagined your refusal could corner them. Yet, here they are, standing in front of you like students, waiting for a verdict from the one person whose judgment actually counts. In their eyes, your signature is a solution, but to you, it's something far greater. It's leverage, and leverage in the right hands is more powerful than any title, any badge, any government seal. You were supposed to be the quiet piece on the board, the one they could move without resistance. But then something shifted. Your choices started carrying weight. Your silence became a threat, and your understanding of the situation outgrew their expectations. Suddenly, you weren't a pawn. You were the leverage. The moment they walked into that room and saw your expression, they realized it. They realized you weren't intimidated. You were evaluating. You weren't overwhelmed. You were calculating. And nothing terrifies those in power more than someone who sees through the performance they rely on. You didn't ask for influence, but you earned it through clarity, resilience, and the refusal to be manipulated. That's why you hold leverage. They built a system of fear, and you learned how to stand without it. Those files, fictional or not, represent every secret they hoped would stay buried forever. But it's not the files that scare them. It's who they might empower. And right now, that person is you. They fear the potential in your hands more than the consequences on paper. You hold a kind of control they can't negotiate with. It's not inherited, not given, not borrowed. It's earned through the strength of seeing truth without flinching. You see what they fear, and you understand why they fear it. That insight alone gives you an advantage. Their entire strategy now revolves around your reaction. Their future depends on whether you decide to shield them, expose them, or walk away entirely. That is the kind of control people spend lifetimes chasing, yet it came to you because you were willing to face what others refused to acknowledge. When he walked in, he carried authority on his badge, but fear in his eyes. And fear, real fear, is impossible to hide. It's the kind that trembles, not in the hands, but in the voice. The kind that slips through even the strongest posture. You saw immediately that his confidence was a costume. The way he sat, the way he spoke too fast, the way he avoided your gaze. It all told a story he never intended to reveal. He wasn't there to negotiate. He was there to plead. That's when you understood the real situation. This wasn't a meeting between a government representative and a civilian. This was a man drowning in consequences, clinging to the hope that you might throw him a lifeline. But you don't respond to panic. You respond to truth. And truth was the one thing he didn't come prepared for. All their strategies, all their protocols, all their rehearsed speeches fall apart the moment they face someone who thinks independently. You're the variable they never accounted for, the one factor that doesn't follow their formulas. You know at the moment their composure cracks, even if just for a second. Their plan relied on predictability, but you're not predictable. Your decisions come from clarity, not fear, from strength, not desperation. And as they struggle to regain control of the conversation, you finally grasp the truth. You are the unknown, in an equation they can no longer solve. And nothing dismantles power faster than unpredictability. If they didn't need you, they wouldn't have come. They wouldn't have lowered their pride, broken their routines, or stepped outside their fortified comfort zones. Their presence alone proves your importance. Meanwhile, you lose nothing by refusing. Nothing collapses for you. Nothing threatens your stability. That's the kind of power that shifts the dynamic of any negotiation. When one person has everything to lose and the other has everything to decide, they want you to think they're doing you a favor. But the truth is the opposite. You're the one holding the favor they can't function without. That realization changes everything, including the way you look at yourself. Pressure doesn't come to the powerless. It comes to the ones who matter. The weight you feel isn't a burden. It's evidence. Evidence that your influence is real, recognized, and impossible to replace. Every attempt they make to rush you, convince you, overwhelm you, is proof that you hold the upper hand. They want to make you think you're cornered, but in reality, pressure only confirms that they're the ones running out of time. Most people mistake pressure for danger, but you've learned to recognize it for what it truly is: validation. If they're pushing this hard, it means you hold something worth pushing for. While their secrets crumble under the threat of exposure, your silence stands stronger than any force they can muster. Silence isn't weakness. It's strategy. It's control. It's a reminder that the power to act, or not, is entirely yours. They watch you closely, waiting for hints, waiting for answers, waiting for you to reveal your intentions. But you reveal nothing, and that nothing becomes everything. It becomes the most powerful move in the room. Your silence leaves them vulnerable. It leaves them guessing, and in that uncertainty, you take back every ounce of control they ever tried to claim over you. Desperation has a smell, a posture, a rhythm. You can feel it before a single word is spoken. And when they walked into the room, it arrived with them, heavy, frantic, undeniable. Their desperation isn't just about the files. It's about losing the illusion of control they've held for so long. They're not afraid of exposure. They're afraid of irrelevance. They're afraid of losing the power they've built their entire identity around. But you're not desperate. You're not rushing. You're not pleading. And that difference is what turns the entire room in your favor. You're the calm in the chaos. The one thing desperation can't manipulate. It's strange, almost unbelievable, how quickly roles reverse. A system built by thousands now leans entirely on one person, you. They never thought their stability would rest in the hands of someone they underestimated. You didn't ask for the responsibility, but you're capable of handling it. And capability is what separates leaders from the ones who merely claim leadership. While they crumble under pressure, you remain grounded, clear-headed, decisive. Their stability depends on you not because they chose it, but because you earned it. And that truth changes the balance of power more than any file, document, or signature ever could. Whatever you choose next won't be a ripple. It'll be an earthquake. They know it. You know it. That's why they tread carefully, choosing every word with caution, watching every shift in your expression. Your decision has the potential to redraw boundaries they thought were permanent. They brace for impact not because they expect you to destroy them, but because they finally understand the scale of your influence. And that influence isn't accidental. It's built from strength, clarity, and the refusal to fold under pressure. You've become the epicenter of their reality, and your next move could shake everything they once believed untouchable. Their rules, their power, their demands, they all stop the moment they reach your signature. That pen in your hand is more than a writing tool. It's a boundary, a reminder that authority doesn't dictate your choices. You do. No badge can force your hand. No title can override your judgment. They've spent their careers commanding others, but your pen is the one place they have no command at all. That small line of ink they're begging for is the exact point where their authority collapses and your control begins. And they know it. They thought keeping you uninformed would keep you powerless. They thought withholding the truth would keep you manageable. But secrets have a strange habit of uncovering themselves at the worst possible time for the ones who hide them. Now that you see the truth, you carry the power they hoped you'd never touch. Not because you're dangerous, but because you're awake. Awareness is the kind of power no institution can control. They tried to hide power for themselves. Instead, they handed it to you. In the end, the entire situation narrows down to one truth. You don't sign out of pressure, fear, or persuasion. You sign only if it aligns with your judgment, your principles, and your decision, not theirs. Your choice is not an obligation. It's an act of ownership. Ownership over your influence, your authority, and your future. They can demand, plead, threaten, but none of it matters. The decision is yours alone. And that is the ultimate form of power. Not the ability to control others, but the ability to choose your own direction when the world tries to choose for you. There comes a moment when the people who once tried to direct your path suddenly halt, stunned, because the version of you standing before them is nothing like the one they remember. You're no longer quiet, no longer easy to guide, no longer someone they can push into compliance with a raised voice or a strategic threat. You've become something they never prepared for, independent in a way that shatters their entire strategy. And the fear that flashes across their faces is the most honest thing they've shown you yet. They speak softer now, as if you're a storm they're trying not to provoke. They measure their words like a gambler counting their last chips. They know they've lost the ability to shape your decisions, and the realization forces them into an unfamiliar posture: respect. true respect, the kind they never intended to give you, but now must, simply because they can't survive the alternative. And in that silence, you finally understand. Control was never about strength. It was about illusion. And the moment you stop believing in that illusion, their grip dissolved. What remains is your power, raw and undeniable, echoing through a room suddenly too small for the person you've become. You don't need to raise your volume. You don't need to threaten anyone. You don't need to assert dominance. All you have to do is speak calmly, and their voices tremble in response. That trembling isn't weakness. It's acknowledgement, a recognition that something about you has changed so dramatically they can no longer predict how you'll move, what you'll choose, or whether you'll tolerate their games. People in positions of authority aren't used to feeling powerless. They're used to their words shaping the room, bending the air, commanding attention. But when they speak to you, that confidence falters. The mask slips. And beneath it, there's a very human, very raw fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of consequences. Fear of being exposed by someone they underestimated. That fear gives you leverage they never meant to hand over. It flips the balance entirely. Now, every word you say becomes a decision point. Every second you stay silent becomes pressure they can't escape. You're not intimidating them on purpose. Your strength simply leaves them with nowhere to hide. You spent years following rules written by people who assumed you'd never question them. You walked the path they laid out, thinking it was the only one available. But the moment you stepped off that path, quietly, confidently, deliberately, the entire game changed. Not because you broke their rules, but because you realized their rules were never designed for your success in the first place. The shift wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It happened the moment you made a decision for yourself, not for approval. And suddenly, everything they once used to control you, fear, doubt, pressure, lost its power. You weren't resisting them. You were simply refusing to be moved. And nothing terrifies controlling people more than someone who won't react. Now the roles reverse. They watch you. They follow you. They adjust to you. Because when you stop playing their game, they lose their only source of certainty. And without certainty, their power folds like paper. Calmness isn't weakness. It's precision. It's the ability to think while others panic, to observe while others overreact, to hold your ground while others scramble for control. And the moment they realize your calm isn't fear but strength, everything inside them tightens. They expect anger. They expect defensiveness. They expect emotional reactions that give them leverage. But your calm denies them all of that. It forces them to confront themselves, their intentions, their mistakes. And confronting themselves is something they've avoided their entire lives. Your calmness becomes a mirror, and what they see in that mirror frightens them. Because for the first time, they're not dominating the room. They're standing in front of someone who doesn't bend, doesn't rush, and doesn't break. Someone who knows their worth. They entered the room assuming they held all the cards. They spoke with confidence, moved with authority, acted like they were untouchable. But somewhere between their first sentence and your first reaction, the ground shifted beneath them. It was subtle, almost invisible, yet undeniable. Their certainty cracked, and your presence filled the space they once controlled. They didn't see it coming because they never imagined you could grow this far, this fast, this strong. Their oversight is your advantage. Their arrogance is your weapon. They built a hierarchy that placed them higher. And now they're living the consequences of their own miscalculation. By the time they realize what happened, it's too late. You're not beneath them. You're not beside them. You're ahead. And they're scrambling to keep up with a reality that no longer revolves around their authority, but around your choices. Every system, every organization, every group has pressure points, places where decisions bottleneck, where influence concentrates, where power gathers. You have become one of those points, not because they intended it, but because you earned it through resilience, intelligence, and unshakable presence. They can override anyone else. They can replace anyone else. They can silence anyone else, but not you, and they know it. That's why they tread carefully around you, why they measure every request, why they speak with caution rather than command. You've become the immovable object in their line of force. Being irreplaceable wasn't something you sought, but now that you are, it changes everything. Their authority may be wide, but your influence is deep, and depth wins every time. People who fear losing power often prepare for conflict. They rehearse arguments, build strategies, plan manipulations. But when they face you, all those preparations collapse. Because you're not fighting, you're not reacting, you're not engaging in the chaos they brought with them. You operate on a different level. While they're throwing punches in the dark, you're standing under the light with complete clarity. Their conflict has nothing to do with you. Their panic isn't yours to inherit. And their agenda can't touch someone who refuses to be dragged into emotional warfare. Your refusal to engage isn't surrender, it's elevation. You rise above the confrontation without ever lifting a hand, and that is what breaks them. Power expects resistance. It doesn't know how to handle indifference. You don't need to speak to shift the room. The second you walk in, every person inside recalculates their approach. That's influence. Not the artificial kind that relies on titles or roles, but the natural kind that grows from reputation, resilience, and undeniable strength. They adjust their tone. They adjust their strategy. They adjust their expectations. Because they know you don't respond to pressure, you respond to truth. And truth is something they haven't mastered. Your presence creates a new equation, one where they can no longer predict the outcome. And unpredictability is the one weakness power can't afford. There was a time they pushed you beyond your limits, knowing you didn't have the standing to push back. But those days are gone. Now, there's a line, your line, and they know better than to cross it. Not because you threatened them, not because you became aggressive, but because your growth drew a boundary around you, a boundary built from confidence, clarity, and conviction, a boundary that speaks louder than any confrontation. Crossing it would cost them more than they're willing to pay. So they don't. And the world that once tried to overwhelm you now steps back in caution, realizing that respect is the only way forward. They believed they could bury truth deep enough that it would never surface. But truth has a way of moving slowly, quietly, relentlessly. And now it follows you like a shadow they can't escape. You didn't ask for it. You didn't dig for it. You simply stood still long enough, strong enough, aware enough, and the truth found you. And once it found you, it changed everything. Truth empowers those who can handle it, and you've proven that you can. Now they know something that terrifies them. The truth is on your side, and nothing is more dangerous to those who built their world on secrets. People who once dismissed your insight now choose their words with care, because they finally understand. You don't miss anything. You hear the hesitation behind their statements. You feel the tension between their sentences. You see the intentions they try to hide. And that awareness makes them uncomfortable, very uncomfortable, because you're not just listening, you're understanding. And understanding gives you the kind of advantage no one can confiscate. They can hide documents, hide motives, hide agendas, but they can't hide themselves from someone who sees deeper than surface-level performances. And that's why they now speak like every word is a step on thin ice. There was a pattern they relied on, a predictable reaction they could exploit. Maybe it was your silence. Maybe it was your compliance. Maybe it was your desire to avoid conflict. Whatever it was, they built their entire control structure around it. Then one day, you broke the pattern. No apology, no explanation, just a clean break. And that single act dismantled their entire strategy. They can't control someone who doesn't respond the way they expect. They can't manipulate someone who sees the trap before stepping into it. You didn't just free yourself. You forced them to rewrite everything they once believed about you. And that rewrite is more powerful than any confrontation. Threats only work on people who doubt themselves, but you don't. Not anymore. Your confidence has become a shield, one they didn't expect and definitely don't know how to bypass. They try to intimidate you with consequences. They try to pressure you with urgency. They try to sway you with fear, but none of it lands, because you've learned to separate what is real from what is manipulation, what is important from what is noise. And now, their threats echo in a room where you are the only one standing still, unshaken. Your calmness isn't passive. It's powerful, powerful enough to silence everything that once kept you contained. They can replace workers. They can replace signatures. They can replace compliance. But the one thing they can't replace, the one thing that terrifies them, is your mind, your perspective, your judgment, your ability to see through the layers they hide behind. Your mind has become the key part of the equation, not because they want it, but because they need it. And needing someone gives them vulnerability they don't know how to handle. You don't need titles to have value. You don't need approval to have influence. The strength of your mind is more powerful than any position they could offer. And that's why it intimidates them. In every power struggle, someone writes the ending. And for the first time, that person is you. Not because you fought harder, but because you grew smarter. Not because you forced control, but because you reclaimed it. They came into your life believing they held all the authority. But chapter by chapter, moment by moment, you rewrote the story they tried to shape for you. And now, the ending belongs to you alone. Whether you walk away, push forward, expose the truth, or rewrite the rules entirely, that decision is yours, all yours. And that is the most powerful ending anyone could ever write.